Welcome back. It's been almost 2 years to the day since 1 year to the day since Canadians learned of the shocking deaths of one of Canada's most accomplished business people and his wife, Barry and Honey Sherman. Barry Sherman was the man behind Apotex, a Canadian pharmaceutical drug maker with annual sales in the billions of dollars. Honey Sherman was a leading Canadian philanthropist. The deaths have shocked and mystified Canadians. First, police said they were not looking for suspects, a statement that strongly suggested police believed that this was a murder-suicide. Weeks later, however, police said they now believe both Barry and Honey Sherman had in fact been murdered. To date, no one has been arrested or charged. We're joined now by a journalist who has regularly brought new facts to light through the course of his reporting on this case. Kevin Donovan is chief investigative reporter at the Toronto Star and author of the new book, The Billionaire Murders, The Mysterious Deaths of Barry and Honey Sherman. Thank you for coming in. I enjoyed the book very much, by the way. Let's jump to a question that you must get a lot. Do you think that the police are on track to make an arrest or a charge here eventually in this case?
2 years ago, this happened. Within the first year, I would have said no. More recently, I think they are on the right track. In a court appearance that I had with the police trying to get information on the case about a month and a half ago, the detective said we are cautiously optimistic that they're moving towards a resolution.
You detail in the book what might be several missteps or errors by the police. You can correct me if that's the wrong terminology. But initially, as we said at the top of the segment, the police said they were not looking for a suspect. There were no signs of forced entry, and that seemed to clearly point to murder-suicide. There was outrage among the family at that conclusion. And then later, the police said, we now believe that this was a targeted murder. How damaging do you think that misassumption was at the beginning of this case?
Yeah, great question. I think it was hugely damaging. The first 48 hours in any homicide investigation is key. So I think there were a lot of problems. And even more recently, I've reported that the police seem to have missed the fact that there was an open window in the basement. There was an unlocked door. Even when the crime scene was first secured in quotes, because they allowed a cleaning person who was there to continue mopping the floor, while they were just beginning the homicide investigation. So there's some serious problems with it. I think they're back on track.
Do you think that the police is putting the right priority on the case? I know, should they be putting more priority on this case versus, I guess, any other murders that have happened in the city?
I think that all murders have to be treated equally. Whether somebody is a billionaire or a major philanthropist, it shouldn't make a difference. But in this case, it has become very much a paper and electronic investigation. There are almost no interviews being done anymore after the initial 250 or so that the police did. What they're now doing is doing search warrants and production orders to get all this electronic data, GPS positioning information, I think, maybe banking data, and that's what they're focusing on right now. The resources are small they're putting on, but I think they are the right resources right now.
You have actually been in a courtroom playing the role that is typically played by a lawyer, and that's asking, I believe under oath, is that correct? Yes. A police officer questions about this. It has to do with a document or a process called an information to obtain. Tell us a bit about your work in the courtroom trying to extract information on this case.
Yeah, it's been different for me. I've been doing it for the last 2 years on this case and another case. It's an opportunity where I can ask the detective any sorts of questions I want to related to this document. Most recently, I asked him why he had put in one of his affidavits the following information, that the family estate information is embedded in the police investigation. He said he couldn't answer that, but he confirmed that happened. When you do this sort of work, we're always trying to get pieces of information that the police are trying to shield. We're not trying to upset the investigation, but we're trying to scrutinize it. And so the opportunity to ask a detective questions under oath is certainly a way to get out information. For example, I was able to learn from him that they have this working theory of the case. They won't say what it is, and they have, quote, an idea of what happened. So that's the sort of thing that comes out during this cross-examination. I do it every 6 months, and if there's no resolution to the case, we'll be back in court in April.
You say you don't want to upset the investigation. Thus far, I believe the judge or justice of the peace police who hears these matters has sided with the police and has kept these matters sealed. Would it not be the case in an active murder investigation that if facts tumbled out in this process that it could damage the investigation?
Well, that certainly is the concern that the justice system has. This particular judge is the one who has sealed all these warrants and production orders, and so she is the guardian of this information. I think she has done a good job. I mean, I'm not pleased with her ruling to keep it sealed, but I think she's done a good job of allowing some public scrutiny of the case while still protecting the specific pieces of information that police are worried would get out. That said, I'm always looking for more information. That's my job.
I know that obviously Barry Sherman was famous for being a very good businessman, often going toe-to-toe with other businesses. Do you think some answers lie in his business dealings with respect to what happened to the Shermans?
Yeah, I believe that this will come down to money at the end of the day. But the theories, some of the outlandish theories I've heard that he was murdered over some pharmaceutical dispute with another company, I don't think that's true. There have been wild theories that the Clinton Foundation, which he once provided some drugs to as an aid relief situation, that's part of it. I don't think that's the case. I think this is something that is more personal to Barry and Honey and not international intrigue, if you will.
Do you think that, I guess, whoever committed this crime, do you think the Shermans knew who they were? I know they often left their doors unlocked and people could get in, anyone could get in, I guess, but was it someone you think familiar with the family?
Yeah, I think it was somebody that was familiar. I don't think that the person who did this was certainly not some random person that went in. I actually don't think it was a hitman or hit person. I think it was somebody they knew, and some of the things that are key, that somebody knew their movements, knew that they would be home that night. And the Shermans weren't often home together night time. They're usually out at charity events, for example. And also the manner of the killing, strangulation. Barry Sherman has said over the years to people, even given interviews, saying that if somebody wants to take me out, they can just shoot me, outside of Apotex. And that's true. And it's a very fatalistic comment for him to make. But the strangulation is very personal, and the way the bodies were staged also strikes me as personal.
There was a certain level of discord and unhappiness within the immediate family and the extended family as well. Talk to us about that.
Well, there was, first of all, discord over them not liking what the police had said initially. But what my research has shown is that this is not at all times a happy family. One of the disputes that we wrote about in the Star was, that's in the book as well, is that Jonathan, who is Barry Sherman's son, and Jonathan's the only one who's really interested in the business, as it seems. He and his father had a dispute over how Barry was spending his money. Now, it was Barry's money to spend. There's an email trail 2 years prior to the murders where Jonathan says he wants to do all these business plans. He needs $250 million. He wants to buy a bunch of cottages east of Toronto. He wants to expand his storage business. And Barry says, no, cash is tight right now. So there's this tension, which is not unusual in wealthy families. Jonathan said that he and his own business partner, Adam Paulin, want to play a role in the succession in the company. And that, I think Barry was still very much in the game and was not planning to retire anytime soon.
How much cooperation did you get from the family members?
Well, some family members talk to me, some do not. There are confidential conversations that I have with people. The family has obviously gone through a tremendous loss, and they are concerned that if they speak out, other members of the family will be upset. They're concerned that the police will be upset. So they're all walking a tight line, but I do feel that I have some good access to the family and very much to the very close friends of Barry and Honey, who've been very cooperative to me.
Finally, the family hired Brian Greenspan, a very, very well-known lawyer here in Canada, to advocate its case here and to push the investigation along. How effective has Brian Greenspan's work been?
Well, I think the best thing that Brian Greenspan and the private investigation team did was at the very start, where they pushed for the second set of autopsies, and it's those autopsies by a forensic pathologist with a great deal of experience. That's what changed the police's mind, saying that it was now a double murder. However, I think that certainly the police are not pleased with all these sometimes frivolous tips that have been sent their way by the private investigation team. And so I think that has slowed down some of the police investigation. At one point, they were receiving these weekly dumps of information that the family was providing, and I think that made the police slow down as they had to check out this new information and could not focus on what they were doing. That has ended now.
Thanks for coming in. I found the book a very compelling read,
Thank
by
you.
the way. That's Kevin Donovan. He's chief investigative reporter at the Toronto Star and author of the new book, The Billionaire Murders, The Mysterious Deaths of Barry and Honey Sherman.